Have you ever walked away from a conversation with a woman and felt hurt, confused, or just plain frustrated, wondering, why do I feel like I just got punched emotionally for no reason? You're not alone. Most men brush it off, tell themselves, she didn't mean it, or I'm overreacting. But here's the thing. Sometimes those words are not just words. They're subtle tests, tiny mines planted to see how far you'll bend. Today, I'm going to break down 6 phrases that no man should ever tolerate. Phrases that seem innocent, casual even, but hide a psychological pattern of disrespect, manipulation, and control. By the end of this video, you'll not only recognize them, but also understand how to protect your boundaries, maintain your self-respect, and keep your power in a relationship.
Before we dive in, take a moment. Think about the last conversation that left you feeling off. Could one of these phrases have been the hidden culprit? Drop a comment below if something comes to mind. Let's get honest with ourselves here. Now, let's get into it. Phrase 1. A real man would... this one. Classic. And yet, it sneaks in under the radar because it's often wrapped in what sounds like encouragement or a simple opinion. Psychologically, when a woman says, a real man would, she's not just offering advice. She's setting a moving target. She's saying, your masculinity isn't enough, and it's your job to prove it to me. Let me give you an example. Imagine this. You're out on a date and the check arrives. You go to pay and she says, a real man would pay all the bills. On the surface, it might sound like a harmless comment, maybe even playful. But dig a little deeper and you'll see the pattern. The standard of a real man is vague, subjective, and constantly shifting. One day, paying for dinner is enough. The next day, she might expect you to also plan an elaborate weekend getaway without you even suggesting it. Here's the twist most men miss. It's not about the money. It's about control and testing your compliance. The goal isn't to see if you can meet her expectations. It's to see how much you'll bend before you lose yourself. And here's the tricky part. You can respond in 2 ways. 1, re-emotionally. Get defensive, frustrated, or hurt. This plays right into the pattern. 2, respond with clarity. Recognize the pattern, set your boundary, and choose your actions intentionally. Even a simple response like, I'm happy to cover this, but let's split the next one, communicates respect for both yourself and the relationship. Here's a question for you. Have you ever caught yourself bending over backwards just to prove your manhood? Comment below. I want to hear your story. Phrase 2. I'm PMSing. Now, this one might make you laugh or roll your eyes, but don't underestimate it. I'm PMSing is often used as a shield, a magical pass that excuses behavior that would otherwise be unacceptable. Psychologically, it's a way of saying, whatever I just did, don't hold me accountable. My mood, my emotions, my actions, they're exempt from consequences. Here's a real-life scenario. You notice she snapped at you over something minor, and you gently ask, hey, why did you say that? She shrugs and says, I'm PMSing. Chill. On the surface, it seems reasonable. Biologically, hormones can impact mood. But here's the deeper pattern. It creates learned helplessness in the man. Over time, you start questioning whether you're allowed to have feelings, concerns, or boundaries because her mood becomes a kind of emotional law. Think about that for a second. If a woman consistently uses PMS as a free pass, what does that teach you? That your emotions and needs are negotiable, but hers are non-negotiable. That's the subtle red flag most men miss. And here's a practical tip. Acknowledge the statement without ceding your power. You might say, I understand your mood might be off. Let's talk about what just happened so we don't carry tension. Notice the difference? You're validating reality, not letting it override your boundaries. Quick interaction. If you've ever been on the receiving end of this, hit that like button because most men have, but few talk about it openly. Phrase 3. I didn't ask you to. This one hits a different nerve. This phrase is like a dagger wrapped in velvet. It erases your effort, makes your intention meaningless, and plants seeds of self-doubt. Picture this. You bought flowers, cooked dinner, or helped with a task around the house. You do it because you care, because you value the relationship. Then she drops this line. I didn't ask you to. Boom. Just like that, your effort is framed as irrelevant, or worse, intrusive. The psychological mechanism here is simple. It conditions men to withdraw, to stop offering, to question their own value. Pattern alert, it's not a one-off. This phrase is part of a behavioral script that slowly chips away at motivation, turning acts of care into potential triggers for conflict. Here's a key insight. Don't let it rewrite your reality. Your effort and intentions matter. They define your character. Recognize the pattern, acknowledge your feelings internally, and choose whether or not to continue that behavior consciously. Let me ask you, how many times have you stopped doing something kind for someone because of a dismissive comment like this? Comment below. Let's normalize sharing these experiences. So far, we've unpacked 3 of the 6 phrases that subtly erode respect and boundaries. 1. A real man would. Test your masculinity, shifts the goalposts. 2. I'm PMSing. Excuses behavior, creates emotional lawlessness. 3. I didn't ask you to. Invalidates effort, saps motivation. These 3 alone can quietly set the tone of a relationship. If unchecked, they plant a pattern of compliance, doubt, and emotional depletion. But here's the suspense. The remaining 3 phrases, they go even deeper. They attack identity, utility, and loyalty. And they're where the real twist hits. Stick around for part 2. We're about to enter territory where subtle words feel harmless until you recognize the pattern and see the psychological game at play. Before we move on, take a moment. Like this video if you're already noticing these patterns in your life. Share it with a friend who might need this insight, and comment below which of the first 3 phrases you've encountered the most. Phrase 4. Then why do I need you? Here's where it starts to cut a little deeper. Phrase number 4. Then why do I need you? At first glance, it might seem like a simple question, maybe even innocent curiosity. But psychologically, this phrase reduces a man to a utility, evaluating his worth solely by what he provides in the moment. Let me give you a scenario. Imagine you've been putting in effort, supporting, helping, showing care. And one day, you don't meet a specific expectation. Maybe you forgot a small detail. Instead of open dialogue, she says, "Then why do I need you?" Ouch, right? That line is designed to make you question your value, your role, your identity in the relationship. It's subtle, but powerful. It transforms partnership into a transactional evaluation. If you don't deliver exactly what I want, you're expendable. Here's the twist most men miss. The phrase isn't really about you. It's about control. It's a test to see if you'll bend over backwards to prove your worth, or if you'll finally recognize your power and boundaries. Mentor tip: respond with clarity, not panic. For example, you can say, I'm here because I care, not just because of tasks or expectations. If that's unclear, let's talk about it. Notice the difference? You're anchoring your identity and value, not just reacting to her words. Take a moment. Have you ever felt like your usefulness was the only thing keeping a relationship intact? Comment below, share your experience. Let's break the silence on this. Phrase 5. I wasted my best years on you. Now, this one is a heavy hitter. If phrase 4 is a knife, phrase 5 is a hammer to the gut. I wasted my best years on you is a classic example of emotional manipulation through guilt and rewriting history. Suddenly, shared memories aren't neutral, they become weapons. Moments you cherish together are reframed as evidence of failure. Picture this. You've been together for years, investing emotionally, financially, and mentally. You thought you were building something meaningful. Then she drops this line: I wasted my best years on you. Boom. Suddenly, every effort you made is invalidated. Every laugh, every plan, every moment of care becomes a tool to instill guilt and self-doubt. The psychological trick? It's gaslighting with a twist. By declaring wasted years, she's shifting the narrative from the present reality to a story where you alone are responsible for her dissatisfaction. It's subtle, yet devastating if unchecked. Here's how to navigate it. Recognize the manipulation for what it is. Don't engage in a guilt spiral. Respond calmly, anchoring to your truth. I value the time we've shared. I don't see it as wasted, and I hope we can move forward with clarity and respect. See the power there? You refuse to internalize blame while keeping the door open for rational dialogue. Quick interaction. Have you ever been told something like this? How did it make you feel? Comment honestly. We learn from shared experiences. Phrase 6. If you don't like it, go find someone else. And now the final phrase, the ultimate test of loyalty and commitment. If you don't like it, go find someone else, is often framed as a freedom of choice statement. On the surface, it seems like she's giving you an option. But psychologically, it's a weaponized ultimatum. Here's a scenario. You voice a concern or suggest a change in behavior that's important to you. Instead of constructive conversation, you hear, if you don't like it, go find someone else. This line does two things. 1, pressure. It forces immediate compliance. 2, control. It reframes expressing boundaries as a threat to the relationship. The twist? It masquerades as empowerment, but in reality, it's a test of submission, seeing whether you'll sacrifice your needs to preserve the status quo. Mentor insight. Never confuse an ultimatum with a discussion. Respond with calm clarity, not emotion. I respect your choice. I also respect mine. Let's figure out if we can align without undermining each other. Notice the subtle difference? You're asserting your value and choice while signaling that manipulation won't dictate your behavior. Now that we've covered all 6 phrases, here's the truth that most men miss. These aren't isolated statements. They're patterns, psychological tells of entitlement, disrespect, and subtle control. Each phrase alone might seem harmless, but together they form a blueprint of emotional testing. Recognizing the pattern early is game-changing. It protects your self-respect. It preserves your mental energy. It allows you to choose whether the relationship is healthy and mutual or manipulative and draining. Here's a key insight. The goal isn't to condemn women or relationships. The goal is to spot patterns, set boundaries, and respond intentionally. Think of these phrases like traffic signs. They warn you before you crash into emotional manipulation. Quick check-in. Which of these 6 phrases have you heard before? Comment below. Let's get real and share experiences. Hit the like button if you've learned something new today, and don't forget to share this video with a friend who might need this insight. In part 3, we'll wrap everything up with practical strategies to respond to these phrases, maintain your boundaries, and ensure you don't get trapped in these psychological games. All right, we've walked through all 6 phrases, and now it's time to connect the dots. Let's recap quickly. 1. A real man would. Sets moving targets, tests masculinity. 2. I'm PMSing. Excuses behavior, shields accountability. 3. I didn't ask you to. Invalidates effort, chips away motivation.
4. Then why do I need you? Reduces you to a utility, evaluates worth. 5. I wasted my best years on you. Weaponizes guilt, rewrites history. If you don't like it, go find someone else. Ultimatum tests loyalty. At first glance, some of these might feel like innocent remarks, but here's the twist. The pattern matters more than the phrase itself. Individually, each statement could be overlooked. Together, they reveal a consistent mindset of entitlement, subtle control, and emotional manipulation. And that's where most men fall into the trap. They respond emotionally, try to justify themselves, or bend over backwards to prove worth. But there's a better way. Let's shift gears. Now that you can recognize the 6 red flag phrases, the next step is how to respond effectively. 1. Respond calmly, not emotionally. Emotions are powerful, but in the heat of the moment, reacting emotionally can fuel the pattern. Instead, take a pause. Acknowledge the words internally without letting them dictate your actions. For example, she says, "A real man would pay all the bills." You respond, "I'm happy to cover this and we can figure out the rest together." You're asserting your boundaries, showing clarity, and refusing manipulation, all without conflict. 2. Set clear boundaries. Boundaries are your personal lines in the sand. Once they're defined, you stop reacting to every emotional trigger. Example, "I didn't ask you to." Boundary response, "I contribute because I care. If my effort is not valued, I'll choose where to focus my energy." Clear, calm, unshakable. The goal isn't to punish, it's to protect your mental and emotional energy. 3. Observe patterns, don't overreact. Here's a key insight most men miss. Words alone aren't the problem, it's the pattern. One comment might be harmless, but repeated phrases signal a consistent mindset. Think of it like traffic lights. A single red light isn't a problem, but if every intersection is red, you know the path is unsafe. Recognize the psychological traffic signs and act accordingly. 4. Anchor to your value. No phrase, no comment, no emotional outburst should ever shake your understanding of your own value. These 6 phrases attempt to undermine confidence, but your self-worth comes from your actions, integrity, and clarity, not someone else's opinion. Example, anchor. She says, "Then why do I need you?" You respond, "I'm here because I choose to be. My value isn't conditional on tasks or expectations." Boom, you reclaim power without aggression. 5. Choose your battles wisely. Not every phrase requires confrontation. Sometimes the most powerful response is strategic silence or redirecting the conversation. 4. I'm PMSing. Acknowledge the reality, but don't let it override your boundaries. 4. If you don't like it, go find someone else. Calmly decide whether this relationship aligns with your values. Don't play into the ultimatum. Key takeaway? Choose your battles, protect your energy, and avoid emotional traps. Here's the part most men don't realize. These phrases aren't random. They're behavioral patterns that reveal the mindset of entitlement and control. If you ignore them, you might get trapped in years of invisible manipulation, slowly eroding confidence, motivation, and emotional health. But here's the flip side. Recognizing them empowers you. Awareness is your superpower. Once you see the pattern, you can interact consciously, set non-negotiable boundaries, and choose relationships that uplift rather than diminish. Think of it like learning a secret code in a game. Once you know it, you stop being a pawn and start playing the game strategically. Let me share a story. A friend of mine, let's call him Mark, was in a relationship where he constantly heard these phrases. A real man would, "Then why do I need you? I wasted my best years on you." At first, he bent over backwards trying to prove himself.
Months of stress, frustration, and doubt later, he realized the pattern was about control, not love. He calmly sat down, set boundaries, and communicated clearly. The relationship ended, but here's the twist. He felt relieved, empowered, and more confident than ever. Moral of the story? Recognizing these phrases early saves years of emotional energy and preserves your self-respect. Actionable takeaways. 1. Spot the phrases early. Knowledge is power. Respond calmly. Don't react emotionally. Stay anchored in your value. 3. Set non-negotiable boundaries. Protect your energy. 4. Observe patterns, not isolated comments. Consistency reveals mindset. 5. Choose relationships that uplift. Don't waste energy proving worth. Remember, these phrases are psychological red flags. They're not about you failing. They're about how some people measure control, entitlement, and respect. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 6 phrases have you encountered in your life? How did you respond? Did you bend, break, or stand your ground? Drop a comment below. Let's start a conversation, share experiences, and learn from each other. If this video gave you clarity, hit that like button, subscribe for deeper insights into female psychology and relationship dynamics, and share this video with any man who needs to recognize these red flags early. Remember, awareness is the first step to emotional freedom. You can't control others, but you can always control how you respond, where you set boundaries, and who you allow into your life.